Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students, Part 1 of the Workbook, Lesson 152. The power of decision is my own. No one can suffer loss unless it be his own decision. No one suffers pain except his choice elects this state for him. No one can grieve nor fear nor think him sick unless these are the outcomes that he wants. And no one dies without his own consent. Nothing occurs but represents your wish, and nothing is omitted that you choose. Here is your world, complete in all details. Here is its whole reality for you, and it is only here salvation is. You may believe that this position is extreme and too inclusive to be true. Yet, can truth have exceptions? If you have the gift of everything, can loss be real? Can pain be a part of peace or grief of joy? I'm going to repeat that because I mumbled it up. Can pain be a part of peace or grief of joy? Can fear and sickness enter in a mind where love and perfect holiness abide? Truth must be all-inclusive if it be the truth at all. Accept no opposite and no exceptions, for to do so is to contradict the truth entirely. Salvation is the recognition that the truth is true and nothing else is true. This you have heard before, 257 footnote, and that's in Chapter 4, Part 2. The truth is true, nothing else matters, nothing else is true, and everything beside it is not there. And Workbook 138, Lesson 138, truth is true and nothing else is real. So, this you have heard before, but may not yet accept both parts of it. Without the first, the second has no meaning, but without the second, is the first no longer true. Truth cannot have an opposite. This cannot be too often said and thought about. For if what is not true is true as well as what is true, then part of truth is false, and truth has lost its meaning. Nothing but the truth is true, and what is false is false. This is the simplest of distinctions, yet the most obscure, but not because it is a difficult distinction to perceive. It is concealed behind a vast array of choices which do not appear to be entirely your own, and thus the truth appears to have some aspects which belie consistency, but do not seem to be contradictions introduced by you. 258. In other words, it seems that there are opposites to the truth, that sin, evil, time, and form exist. These seem to have their own objective reality, but in fact they are simply illusions produced by our own power of choice. They are thus not real opposites to the truth, is what I'm going to guess. Truth, but rather, as the above passage puts it, are contradictions introduced by you. As God created you, you must remain unchangeable, with transitory states by definition false. And that includes all shifts in feelings, alterations in conditions of the body and the mind, in all awareness and in all response. This is the all-inclusiveness which sets the truth apart from falsehood, and the false kept separate from the truth as what it is. Is it not strange that you believe to think you made the world you see as arrogance? God made it not. Of this you can be sure. What could he know of the infernal the sinful and the guilty, the afraid, the suffering and lonely, and the mind which lives within a body that must die. You but accuse him of insanity to think he made a world where such things seem to have reality. He is not mad, yet only madness makes a world like this. To think that God made chaos contradicts his will, invented opposites to the truth, and suffers death to triumph over life. All this is arrogance. Humility would see at once these things are not of him. And can you see what God created not? To think you can is merely to believe you can perceive what God willed not to be. And what could be more arrogant than this? Let us today be truly humble and accept what we have made as what it is. The power of decision is your own. Decide but to accept your rightful place as co-creator of the universe. Footnote 259. This does not mean co-creator of the physical universe. The word universe in the Course typically refers to what the Course considers the true universe, a transcendental realm that is beyond time and space. It would be synonymous with the kingdom of God, a heavenly realm that contains the sum total of God's creations and our own. So I'm going to repeat that sentence. Decide but to accept your rightful place as co-creator of the universe, and all you think you made will disappear. What rises to awareness then will be all that there ever was, eternally as it is now. And it will take the place of self-deceptions made but to usurp the altar to the Father and the Son. Today we practice true humility, abandoning the false pretense by which the ego seeks to prove it arrogant. Only the ego can be arrogant, but truth is humble in acknowledging its mightiness, its changelessness, and its eternal wholeness, all encompassing God's perfect gift to his beloved Son. We lay aside the arrogance which says that we are sinners, guilty and afraid, ashamed of what we are, and lift our hearts in true humility instead to him who has created us immaculate. 260. To speak of God having created us immaculate sounds like a reference to the Immaculate Conception, a Catholic doctrine that refers to the Virgin Mary's conception in her mother's womb. In this doctrine, at the moment of the creation of Mary's soul, God acted upon her soul, preserving it exempt from all stain of original sin. The implication of the above reference is that what Catholics believe about God's creation of Mary's soul is true of God's creation of each of us. So we lay aside the arrogance which says that we are sinners, guilty and afraid, ashamed of what we are, and lift our hearts in true humility instead to him who has created us immaculate, like to himself in power and in love. The power of decision is our own, and we accept of him that which we are, and humbly recognize the Son of God. To recognize God's Son implies as well that all self-concepts have been laid aside and recognized as false. Their arrogance has been perceived, and in humility the radiance of God's Son, his gentleness, his perfect sinlessness, his Father's love, his right to heaven and release from hell are joyously accepted as our own. Now do we join in glad acknowledgement that lies are false and only truth is true. We think of truth alone as we arise and spend 5 minutes practicing its ways, encouraging our frightened minds with this. The power of decision is my own. This day I will accept myself as what my Father's will created me to be. Then we will wait in silence, giving up all self-deceptions as we humbly ask ourselves that He reveal Himself to us. And He who never left will come again to our awareness, grateful to restore His home to God as it was meant to be. In patience, wait for Him throughout the day and hourly invite Him with the words with which the day began, concluding it with this same invitation to yourself. God's voice will answer, for He speaks for you and for your Father. He will substitute the peace of God for all your frantic thoughts, the truth of God for self-deceptions, and God's Son for your illusions of yourself. And please join me for a 5-minute meditation for this lesson. And I'm going to go ahead and read Robert Perry and Alan Watson's input. Commentary. Lesson 152, June 1st. Happy June. The power of decision is my own. Practice instructions. The purpose of this lesson is to be truly humble and lay aside my self-concepts which arrogantly claim that I am weak and sinful, and accept the power of my true self. So we're going to practice for 5 minutes in the morning and evening, repeating the lines, and I'll do a separate meditation. The power of decision is my own. This day I will accept myself as what my Father's will created me to be. You could rephrase this as, with the unlimited power of my decision, I will accept the unlimited power of myself. Then spend some time giving up your own self-concepts, which are just lies you've told yourself about who you are. They say that you are weak, at the mercy of a world you did not make. They say you are sinful and should be ashamed of what you are. Lay aside all of these self-concepts, recognizing that their littleness is actually arrogant, since they imply that God is wrong about you. Then wait in silence as you humbly ask yourself to reveal Himself to you in all His mightiness, changelessness, and wholeness. Lift your heart in true humility to your Creator and allow Him to show you the infinite Son that He created as you. Expect His voice to respond and to replace your false self-concepts with the realization of your true self. Whenever your mind wanders, repeat the opening lines again and return to waiting. And then we'll remember on the hour, do a miniature version of the longer practice period, inviting the realization of yourself with these words. The power of decision is my own. This day I will accept myself as what my Father's will created me to be. Thank you, Robert Perry. This commentary is by Alan Watson. The central appeal of this lesson is to get me to accept my rightful place as co-creator of the universe. It attempts through its logical arguments to persuade me to accept the fact that I made the world I see. Nothing occurs but represents your wish, and nothing is omitted that you choose. If that is true and I accept it, then the main thought of the lesson makes sense. The power of decision is my own. My choice makes the world. What grants our illusion of pain, sin, and death such apparent solidity is what we believe it exists outside, of our power, and that we are not responsible for it. If, however, I can accept that I made it what it is, then I can recognize the possibility of exercising the same power of choice to make it disappear. If I deny that I made it, I cannot unmake it. If, however, I recognize that I have made the world I see, I am accepting at the same time that God did not make it. The absurdity of the idea that God created this world is clearly stated here. To think that God made chaos contradicts His will, invented opposites to the truth, and suffers death to triumph over life. All this is arrogance. Arrogance, not arrogance. Sorry. Humility would see at once these things are not of Him. If they are not of Him, they must be of me, my fabrications, the results of my power of decision, and therefore things that I can undo. Applied to myself, these ideas mean that I must be still whole, unchanged by mistakes. As God created you, you must remain unchangeable, with transitory states by definition false. And that includes all shifts in feelings, alterations in conditions of the body and mind, in all awareness and in all response. I love these words, transitory states by definition false. If it changes, it is not real. Wow. What does that do to any concerns I might have about mood swings, aging, sickness, about the level of my income? Transitory seems so apropos in regard to income. How about alterations in awareness? Transitory, therefore false. Alterations in my response to the Course. Transitory, therefore false. Truth is true and only truth is true. Any and all alterations are contradictions introduced by me, the small me. I have begun to learn that when I feel bummed out for any reason, I can remind myself that this feeling is transitory and therefore false. Nothing to be concerned about. This doesn't always immediately dispel my feeling bummed out, but it does prevent me from feeling guilty about feeling bummed out or feeling anxious that something is seriously wrong with me. As a result, the negative feeling does not last as long as it used to because I am no longer adding additional layers of self-condemnation on top of the original feeling. Such an attitude somehow distances me from the transitory feelings or shifts in my awareness. Instead of relating from the feeling, I begin to relate to it with gentleness and merciful forgiveness. Some have expressed the difference in words by saying things like, "My body is sick" instead of "I am sick," or "I am experiencing a depression" instead of "I am depressed." Instead of the passing thought or feeling being mistaken for me, I am aware of me over here, consistent and unchanging, but experiencing this transitory state of mind. I am distinct from and not identified with the passing show of my mind. And in that situation, I can recognize the power of my decision is my own. And I thank you, God, and I thank you for joining with me. Great lesson. They're all my favorite. Go figure. Lesson 152, June 1st. The power of decision is my own. Please join me for the 5-minute meditation. I love you. Thank you.